You ever stop and think about the invisible networks that kind of run our lives? I'm not just talking about the internet itself, but all the systems that track and connect and control how information flows. Well, it turns out the blueprint for our digital world, it might just be 2,000 years old. All right, let's do a little time travel. Picture this. You're a Roman governor, way out on the edge of the empire. Maybe you're in Gaul, maybe you're in Britain. Suddenly, a rebellion is kicking off or a rival army is on the move. You have to get a message back to the Senate in Rome, like yesterday. How in the world do you do that across a whole continent when you've got no phones, no email, just roads and horses?
Well, here's how. You'd use something called the Cursus Publicus, which literally means the public way. And calling this thing a postal service, that doesn't even come close. This was the state-run, high-speed information network that basically held the entire Roman Empire together. It was how they moved messages, money, officials, and intelligence with a speed that was just astonishing for the time.
So, let's dig into this ancient marvel of logistics, shall we? The Cursus Publicus didn't just pop up overnight. It grew out of a real need for leaders like Caesar to manage their power, and for emperors like Augustus to run a massive, complex empire. This wasn't just a road system, it was, quite literally, the pathway of power. And here's where it gets really clever. The whole system wasn't just one size fits all. Nope, it had two different speeds. First, you had the Cursus Velox. Think of it as the express lane. This was for your top-secret military dispatches and VIPs. Then you had the Cursus Clabularis. This was the slow-moving freight lane, using heavy-duty ox wagons to haul supplies and goods. The Romans knew that not everything needed to travel at the same breakneck speed.
And the way they organized it was just brilliant. The foundation, of course, was their legendary network of paved roads. But on top of that, they built a network of stations. Every 8 to 10 kilometers or so, you'd hit a mutatio, a little relay post where a rider could swap out their tired horse for a fresh one. Then, every 25 to 30 kilometers, you'd find a mansio. This was basically a full-service Roman inn with stables, food, and a place to sleep. But to use any of it, you needed a diploma, an official government pass to prove you're on state business.
Of course, all this incredible infrastructure, the roads, the stations, it was totally useless without the people who actually made it run. We're talking about a human-powered network, from the station managers all the way to the couriers themselves. And what could these people do? Get a load of this. In an emergency, a military courier could cover 175 kilometers. That's over 100 miles in a single day. That's insane. By swapping out horses at every relay station, a single message could travel at this relentless pace, connecting the farthest corners of the empire to Rome in just a few weeks instead of months. But it wasn't just for generals and governors. This network connected entire communities. Take Phoebe, for example, who's mentioned right here by the Apostle Paul. He calls her a diakonos. Now, that word can just mean servant, but think about it. She was trusted to carry this incredibly important letter to the Christian community in Rome. It's pretty clear he means she was a courier, a trusted messenger. This network wasn't just moving imperial orders, it was moving new ideas, faith, and connecting people across the known world. Okay, so you have this incredibly powerful, very visible Roman network, made of roads and riders and buildings. But its real job? To track movement, to gather information, and to connect a huge territory, it has this weirdly modern echo. So you can think of the Cursus Publicus as the invisible force that made the Roman world feel like one connected place. Even though you could see and touch its parts, the stones, the horses, the people, the network itself was this administrative glue holding the empire together. Right, so what about our world? What's the invisible system that's tracking and connecting us? The one that's gathering information about pretty much everything we do. It's this thing, the humble and, let's be honest, super annoying cookie consent banner. We see them a million times a day, and most of us just blindly click OK to get rid of it. But that one simple click, that's our gateway. That's the modern equivalent of flashing your pass to enter this huge, invisible information network packed with what you could call digital couriers. And the scale is just, well, it's staggering. On one typical website, a single click can authorize dozens and dozens of these trackers. Just look at this breakdown. Out of more than 80 trackers found, nearly 50 of them are purely for advertising. Another 14 are for statistics. Every single one is like a tiny digital courier being sent out to report back on you. So let's break this down. Let's actually use the Roman system as a kind of roadmap to understand the invisible digital network we are all a part of every single day. First up, the pass. In ancient Rome, you needed that diploma to get access to the state's horses and stations.
In return, the state got to log your entire journey. Today, that click on Accept Cookies, that's your diploma. You're granting all these companies the right to use your computer's resources, and in return, they get to track your journey all over the web.
Okay, next, the logbook. At every Roman station, you had the station chief, the mancenarius, and his job was to write down who came through, where they were headed, and when they left. Today, analytics cookies are our digital station chiefs. They log your arrival on a website, they watch every single thing you click on, and they make a note of where you go when you leave.
And finally, the scouts. Rome's military used scouts to gather intelligence. Enemy troop movements, what local people were thinking, valuable resources, all to get a strategic advantage in war. Well, advertising cookies are our modern-day scouts. They report back on your movements, your interests, what you buy, your browsing history, all to give companies a strategic advantage. Not in a war for territory, but in the constant battle for your attention and your wallet.
Every powerful network, whether it's ancient or modern, it always comes with a cost. There's always a price to pay for being this connected. So, what was the trade-off back then, and what is it now?
And this really gets to the heart of it. The Cursus Publicus, it was paid for by the people living in the provinces. Local communities were forced to provide the animals, the food, the labor. It was a massive economic burden. Today's digital network, it's paid for by us, by you, the user. But the currency we use isn't grain or horses. It's our personal data, our behavior, our clicks, our identity. That's the price.
So that leaves us with a pretty huge question, doesn't it? The Romans built their massive network with tangible things, with stones and with the sweat and labor of their subjects. We've built an information superhighway that absolutely dwarfs theirs in speed and scale. But our network, it's built out of the invisible, intangible pieces of our own lives. And it really makes you stop and wonder, what kind of empire are we building, and who is it really serving?